Hello, hello, hello. Welcome all. Welcome my team. How are we doing? I can see we've got a few people in the chat already, which is fantastic. Welcome, guys. How is everybody? I can see we've got Shaysta, we've got Kay Mahmood as well, and we've got Renee modding in for us today. Post a little hello in the chat. Anybody else to let me know who else we've got here. Let me know you can hear me and let me know you can see me properly. How is everybody doing today? Are we all well? Have we all had a good start to term? That's the big question, because I bet some of you have probably started term. You've probably started school probably either today, maybe yesterday. Maybe your school's having 3 inset days. Maybe you don't start till tomorrow. Oh, we've got someone, no name and just a red circle. Hello, little no name and a red circle. A good start to the term there, Shaysta. That's fantastic. Lovely to see as well. And have we got anyone in that has already been in some of our courses, that has already been in either our summer school or perhaps was on the main course last year? Kay Mohammed, yours starts next Monday. You are incredibly lucky, is all I'm going to say. You are very, very lucky. Do you know what else starts next Sunday? Our main courses. They start next Monday as well. You were with maths. You're doing maths and maths with Neil and Guy in the summer there. Fantastic little red. I'm going to call you Red No Name. I'm going to call you Red No Name instead. Great then, team. All right, so today, what we're going to be doing today is going to give you a bit of an example of what our main course is going to be looking like, all right? And in this free lesson, we're going to be thinking about the heart, okay? Now, for those of you that don't know me, for anyone on the stream that doesn't know me, my name is Joe. I am the assistant head of biology here at My Headspace. I do the year 10 courses, as well as the year 12 and the year 13, but for you guys the year 10 is what we want to be thinking about. And what's kind of significant about me? Why trust your biology education? Why trust your learning to me? Well, I am a very experienced biology teacher. I used to be head of biology at one of the top schools in the country, one of the top 10 schools in the country. And I also used to be an examiner as well. So I know exactly what the examiners want from you and what you need to say in your exams in order to get the marks. Okay? Now, first thing, I'm going to actually ask something of you right now. Sharing is caring. So copy the URL for this free stream, send it to as many people as you possibly can. Let's see how many people we can get into this free stream right now. So copy that URL, put it on Snapchat, Insta, TikTok, wherever you want to. Spread the love, share it with as many people as you possibly can, and let's see how many people we can get joining our live stream today and experiencing what it's like to be in a My Headspace lesson. Okay, so share it with as many people as you can. All right, should we crack on? Should we do some biology? Who wants to do a little bit of biology? Who wants to do a little bit of learning? Who wants to improve their grade and improve their biology knowledge? Alpha starts tomorrow. Good luck for tomorrow, Alpha, as well. All right, let's crack into it, guys. Let's crack on. So today it's all about the heart, and you've probably learned about the heart loads, haven't you? So you probably have a good understanding of the heart. The first thing I'm going to ask is, like, what is the function of the heart? Why do we need a heart? What is the function of the heart? What do we think on the chat? What is the function of the heart? Why is the heart necessary? Thinking about it as an organ, it's to, Alpha says, to oxygenate the blood. Oh, not quite, Alpha. I wouldn't say in terms of oxygenation. I would say in terms of pumping the blood. Excellent there. No Name Red and Adam as well. The heart is literally just a pump. That's all it is. And it's going to pump the blood around the body. Pumping the blood around the body. That is the function. Very nice there, DVRA as well. Now, the heart has 4 main chambers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 main blood vessels going in or going out of the heart. Let's kind of trace the blood as it moves through the heart. So we're going to enter through this side here. Now, this side of the heart, is this the right-hand side or the left-hand side of the heart? What do we think on the chat? Is this the right-hand side or the left-hand side? Seems like a bit of an easy question. Ooh, DVRA. Shaysta says left. Alpha Null says left. Ooh, interesting. Okay, well, when we think about the heart, we are going to refer to this as the right-hand side. It was a bit of a trick question. I'll be honest, it was a bit of a trick question. I duped you a little bit there. Kind of, this is the right hand side, because what you want to imagine is we've cut somebody open. We've cut them open, we've removed their heart, and if we were to look at their heart, that side would be the right hand side of their body. So if you imagine my heart, it's in the center of your chest about here. The right hand side of my body, that's the right hand side of my heart. Okay, so it's on the left hand side of our diagram, the left hand side of the screen, but it is the right side of the body. Now, going into the heart, there's three main types of blood vessels, and we're going to come to this in a bit more detail later. We've got our arteries, our veins, and our capillaries. Now, it's not going to be a capillary. We're going to talk about the function of capillaries later. So it's either an artery or a vein. Which one of these do you think is bringing blood towards the heart, that is bringing blood into the heart? Artery or vein, which one is bringing that blood into the heart? Put a little A or a V on the chat if you don't want to write out in full. And I'll have a little sip of my tea. Very good there, Mohammed. Very nice there. Red, no name Red as well, and DVRA. It is the vein. So the veins, these are towards the heart. So this first one is going to be a type of vein, and in fact we're going to use the Latin for it, and that is going to be the vena, and specifically the vena cava. So our first blood vessel we call the vena cava, and this is going to take it into our first chamber of the heart. Now the function of this chamber is that it's going to contract, it's going to get smaller, and is going to squeeze and push the blood into the next chamber of the heart. Now, if you were to walk into a kind of like really fancy grand house, or a really fancy home, a mansion or something like that, the first room that you enter into might be called an atrium. An atrium is like the hallway, like the first room that you walk into. And just like that, in the heart, this first kind of chamber we are also going to call an atrium. And this atrium, as Mohammed says, this is our right atrium. Fantastic there. Now the right atrium is then going to pump blood down into what we're going to call the right ventricle. Now the right ventricle, I remember it because these ventricles, they look a little bit like a V, don't they? They've got a bit of a V shape there. Very good there, Red, no name. We've got a bit of a V shape, and that is our right ventricle. But between them, we have these little like flaps. We have these little flaps here. Now these flaps are super, super important. What do you think these flaps might be? You might have come across these before. You might have come across them in different subjects. You might have come across them in, I don't know, maybe physics, maybe DT, maybe design and technology, perhaps. Mohammed says a valve. Fantastic. Absolutely correct. This is a valve. And now what is the function of a valve? If you imagine the valve on a tap, you turn the valve and the flow stops. But the valves in the heart have a slightly different role. Imagine what would happen if the ventricle contracted. What's going to happen? So the blood is going to go from the right atrium down through that valve, and it's going to stop the blood from flowing backwards. Excellent there, Red, no name. Welcome, Kurtan. So the valve prevents, and what we can say here is we're going to say prevents the backflow of the blood. Prevents the backflow of blood, exactly as Mohammed says there. Because if the blood was going the wrong way, well, that means that it's not going to be going where it needs to be going. Okay. So let's continue. We've got another valve here before we go into our next type of blood vessel. And our next type of blood vessel is going to carry the blood away from the heart. It's going to carry the blood away from the heart. Which type of blood vessel do we think this is? Artery, vein, or capillary? Wagwan, Kurtan. What type of blood vessel do we think this is? Artery, vein, or capillary? Post your answer in the chat. A, V, or C? Excellent there, Kurtan. Very nice there, Mohammed, as well. This is an artery because our arteries take blood away from the heart. So this would be an example, and we would call it the pulmonary artery. The pulmonary artery. The reason we're going to call that the pulmonary artery is because of where it is carrying the blood to. Where do we think this is carrying the blood? The pulmonary artery, where is that blood travelling to? Where is the blood being pumped to? The heart is going to pump the blood to two different places. This is going to pump the blood to the lungs. Excellent there. Pulmonary means lungs. Your pulmonary system, your pulmonary circuit is the circuit of blood vessels that goes via your lungs. So this is taking the blood to the lungs. Now the lungs are important. The lungs have an important role, and somebody mentioned this a little bit earlier. What is the role of the lungs? What do the lungs do to the blood? Why are the lungs important? Why are the lungs important when it comes to the blood? What are they going to do? Exactly there, Alpha Null. It's going to oxygenate the blood. So in the lungs, oxygen will diffuse from the alveoli into the capillaries and will oxygenate the blood. The amount of oxygen will increase. Fantastic. So this here is going to oxygenate the blood. Great. Now, the blood is going to return from the lungs, and it's going to return, change the color of my pen back to red. It's going to return into this blood vessel here. Now, if it's returning from the lungs, what word means lungs, and what type of blood vessel returns blood to the heart? What do we think this is going to be called? Mohammed says a vein. Can you be more specific, Mohammed? Can you tell me what type of vein or what specific vein? Thinking about the fact that it comes from the lungs. Yeah, fantastic. It is the pulmonary vein. Well done, Red No Name as well. So this is our pulmonary vein. Excellent there, team. Do make sure that you do have the workbook downloaded, everybody. The link to the workbook is in the description of the video. So if you haven't got the workbook, do download it so that you can fill it in, so that you can annotate it in the same way that I am doing on the screen for you. Now, the pulmonary vein is going to take it into this chamber here. Based on how we've labelled the other side, what do we think this chamber is going to be with the question mark? What is this chamber then? Very nice there, K. Mohammed. Yeah, you know absolutely what we're talking about. This is our left atrium. Very good there, Alpha Null too. So this is our left atrium. So this is the left side to the heart. We've got our right side and our left side. The left atrium is going to then go via the valve into this chamber. What do we think this chamber is going to be? Excellent, Adam. Yeah, good to have you in as well. Gaming with TSP. Very, very good, guys. Remember, don't forget, copy that URL, share it to as many people as you can. Let's see how many people we got on our stream so far. How's everything looking today? We've got, oh, mute myself because otherwise we're going to have a horrible echo. We've got 24 people. Come on, let's get that number up. Let's get as many people here as possible. Excellent there, team. Everybody on the left, everybody with the left ventricle. What do you notice about the left ventricle compared to the right ventricle? I've given you a bit of a clue there. Welcome, Natural Scientist. I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Good to have you in. What do we notice about the left ventricle compared to the right ventricle? I've given you a bit of a clue. Alpha Null says it's thicker. Red No Name says it's thicker as well. Yeah, excellent. It's a thicker muscle wall, and we're going to go on and we're going to explain that in just a second. Now, the left ventricle is going to pump blood through another valve out of here, and it's then going to go out of this blood vessel. What is our final blood vessel? This is the largest blood vessel in the body. We're going to come on to that in just a second, Shasta, okay? We'll come to that in just a second. This is our aorta. Excellent there. Okay, Mohammed again. This is our aorta as well. Great. Now the aorta is going to carry the blood somewhere else. The pulmonary circuit carries it to the lungs. The aorta is going to carry that blood to the body. It's going to carry it to the body. Now think about that. The aorta is having to carry the blood all the way to the body. The left ventricle is having to pump and squeeze and pump and kind of generate enough pressure in order to pump that blood all the way around the body. Think about it, like your heart to your lungs, your right ventricle, that's not having to work very hard. It doesn't have to send the blood very far. But your heart all the way down to your toes and back again, all the way up to your hand as you reach it up into the sky, that is going to have to send your blood further. So if it has to send your blood further, well, it has to be at higher pressure, which means the muscle has to contract with more force as well. So when we are thinking about our thicker muscle wall here, the reason for it is it means the muscle contracts with more force. So the muscle contracts with more force, and so we get higher pressure. Really good what natural scientists said there as well. Thicker muscle means a stronger muscle that is needed to pump the blood throughout the body. Really what we want to do though is to make sure we get the marks is that linking it to higher pressure. So we get higher pressure as well. Fantastic there, team. Okay, now the heart, the regular rhythm of the heart is controlled by, or what do we call that? What do we call the regular beating of the heart? What do we call that regular beating of the heart? How many kind of contractions there are per minute? What do we think that is called? Not so much the heartbeat. Not so much the heartbeat, the regular contractions of the heart, we would call that our heart rate. So our heart rate is our number of contractions or our number of beats per minute. Have you heard of a pacemaker? Have you heard of a pacemaker? Pacemakers are little devices that sometimes if somebody has a heart attack or if somebody has a heart condition, they might have a pacemaker fitted, and the pacemaker controls the heart rate. It sends regular electrical impulses to kind of stimulate the heart to contract. Now, the reason that people have to have a replacement pacemaker is because we have natural pacemakers within our heart as well. Your natural pacemaker is a set of specialized cells. I'm going to do it in green here, and they're kind of like here within the right atrium. So these are the pacemaker cells, and that they are going to control the heartbeat and the kind of how regular the heart rate is. Okay, so recap, pause. The heart pumps blood around the body. The lungs oxygenate the blood. Well, why do the lungs need to oxygenate the blood? What happens in the body? What is the body doing that is going to, what's the body doing that is going to be affecting the amount of oxygen in the blood? What do we say then, team? What is the body going to be doing? Very good there, Red No Name, immediately in with an answer. Love it. It is respiring. So the body, we've got muscles, we've got cells carrying out metabolic reactions, all sorts of things going on. The body is respiring, and that means that it is going to be using up that oxygen. So it's using up the oxygen, and if it's using up the oxygen, that means it is going to have less oxygen in it. So which side of the heart would you say is the deoxygenated side? Which side of the heart is the deoxygenated side? Do the valves have name? Great question, K. Mohammed. Yes, they do. They sometimes they're referred to as atrioventricular valves. Sometimes these ones here are referred to as semilunar valves. They also have the name, they're also called mitral valves as well, and they are also called bicuspid and tricuspid valves too. So yeah, a few different names for them, and when you get onto A-level biology, you will kind of learn them in a bit more detail. Really, really good. Everybody on the chat there saying that the right side of the heart is the deoxygenated side. Excellent. So this is our deoxygenated side, and the left side of the heart there, that is then going to be our oxygenated side, because that's that's got the blood coming from the heart. For triple science, do you need to know the specific name? No, you don't, except I think maybe if you are Edexcel. I think maybe if you are Edexcel, you need to know tricuspid and bicuspid for triple science, or it might just be IGCSE Edexcel you need to know it for. But I can check that later for you. AQA, you don't need to know it then, Shayster. AQA don't need to know it at all, so do not worry. All right, great. Should we move on? Should we do some practice questions? Should we see what we have learnt so far? So, name the structure labelled A. What do we think structure labelled A is? Let's see what we've learnt so far. What is the structure labelled A? Post your answer into the chat. Natural Scientist says the right ventricle. Alpha Null says the right ventricle as well. You guys are absolutely correct. That is the right ventricle. Number 2, where does the pulmonary artery take the blood to? So our pulmonary artery, remember, is this one here, our pulmonary artery. Where is that blood going to? What does that word pulmonary mean? Fantastic, K. Mohammed as well. It is the lungs. And we could almost say that it is the lungs. And let's add in a bit of extra detail. And we're going to say to be oxygenated. So it's going to carry that blood to be oxygenated. Okay, number 3, circle a valve on the diagram. Well, obviously you guys can't circle a valve on my screen, can you? Where would we find a valve? Give me a description of where we might find a valve. Red No Name has just said A. I mean, fair enough. But Adam says above the right ventricle. You can on the workbook. Oh, absolutely correct there, Shayster. Very good. So above the right ventricle, above A, absolutely. So between the atrial and between the atria and the ventricles. Nice, Natural Scientist. But are these the only valves? Where else could we find a valve in the heart? Where else could we find a valve in the heart then? We could find valves in the veins. Very correct there, Red No Name. And we're going to get onto veins in a little bit more detail in just a second, but also between the ventricles and the arteries. So remember, we've got valves here, and these are between the ventricles and those arteries, between the ventricles and the arteries as well. I wouldn't say in the arteries they're alpha null, because arteries themselves don't have the veins, but between the ventricle and the arteries we would find the valves. Good. Okay, number 4, what is the main type of tissue in the heart wall? What is the heart actually made of? Remember, our tissue is our collection of different cells, or collection of the same type of cell performing one function. What type of tissue are we talking about here then? Adam says muscle. Natural Scientist absolutely showing off there, talking about myocardium. Myocardium there, Natural Scientist, literally means cardiac, as in heart, muscle. Myo means muscle, so it is just muscle tissue. And myocardium just means heart muscle. That's all it means. And then number 5, where is the heart's pacemaker located? Where would we find the pacemaker cells of the heart that are going to regulate and control that heart rate? K. Mohammed says the right atrium, and Red No Name says the right atrium as well. Fantastic, my team. The right atrium. Very, very good. Okay, wonderful. Should we move on? Should we go on to looking at these blood vessels in a little bit more detail? So before we move on, what are the 3 types of blood vessels? I mean, look at the next page in the workbook if you're not sure. What are the 3 types of blood vessels then? Before we move on, what are those 3 types of blood vessels? Yashi with artery, capillary and vein. Hello, Yashi. Welcome back. Good to see you again. How are you doing? It is our arteries, veins, and capillaries. Excellent. So let's go through these in a little bit more detail. We've already got our idea of the function of the artery. Where does the artery carry the blood to? Hello there, Salah, as well. I can see we've got a few more people joining. Remember, guys, share the link. This is a free stream. Anyone can watch it. Share the link, copy, put it on Snapchat, put it on Insta, anywhere you like. Share it to as many people as you can. Let's see how many people we can get on the stream today. So our artery, what is the function of the artery? I.e., where is it carrying the blood? Is it going away from the heart or towards the heart? Very nice there, natural scientist. Again, the artery is carrying the blood away from the heart. And so the vein is carrying the blood towards the heart. The vein carries the blood towards the heart instead. Now, if we look at our arteries and our veins here, we can see we've got a pretty similar structure. They're made of these kind of 3 layers or 4 layers: endothelium, elastic fibers, smooth muscle, and then collagen fibers as well. What's some of the differences between them? Look at those layers, look carefully. Look at the hole down the middle of the vessel. The lumen is what we call the hole down the middle of the vessel, the blood vessel. What can you see as some differences there? Look at them. Describe those differences to me. What differences can you see? Natural scientists talking about arteries are thicker. Can you be a little bit more specific in your answer? What about the arteries are thicker? Exactly, Yashi, the muscular and elastic walls. So the artery has thicker, elastic, and muscle walls. And we can also see that there's a smaller lumen. Fantastic, natural scientist. We've also got a smaller lumen. Now, the artery is carrying that blood away from the heart. So the heart is pumping, it is squeezing, it is increasing the pressure of the blood, and it is forcing the blood out of the heart. So it's going to be at very, very high pressure. So the artery is at high pressure. And so that's why we need these thicker elastic and muscle walls and this smaller lumen. Something I think you guys really need to spot and be careful of is the use of this language here, this ER language, this comparative language, thicker elastic walls, smaller lumen as well. Okay, let's go to our vein then. What do we think the vein is? Compared to the artery, what do we think the pressure is like in the vein? If the artery has high pressure, what do we think the pressure is like in the vein instead? What would you say? Nice there, Adam. Very good. Lovely and quick as well. It is going to be lower pressure or low pressure. Great there, team. So the vein, it doesn't need these thick elastic fibers or thick smooth muscle either. It doesn't need a narrow lumen. The problem with the vein though is because the pressure is so low, the blood might kind of pool and might go in the wrong direction. It might not continue to flow in the right direction. So how does the vein prevent the backflow of blood? What adaptations does the vein have to prevent the blood from going in the wrong direction? Think about the heart. Think about what structures the heart had to stop the blood going the wrong direction in the heart. Nice there, K. Mohammed. Very nice there, Alpha Null as well. It is the valves. It is the valves. And those valves, again, are going to be to prevent the backflow of blood. Great. Natural scientists talking about muscular contractions. Really good point there. So your veins actually wrap around your skeletal muscles. You can quite often see that. So sometimes you might be able to see kind of bluish lines, or you might be able to see your veins sticking out from kind of, I've got one there that you can maybe just about see. You might be able to see your veins kind of sticking out on the surface of your skin, and that's as they wrap around your muscles. And as your muscles contract, that's going to help to pump the blood back to your heart. This is why it's really important that people don't spend too long sat down, particularly on things like long haul flights. Like if you are flying to America or something, it's recommended that you get up and have a walk around every like half hour or so, or every hour, because if you spend too long sat down and your legs aren't moving, the blood doesn't get back to your heart. It pools, and that causes something called DVT, or deep vein thrombosis, and that can cause some really serious conditions. Okay, let's go on to our last one. Let's go on to our capillary. Now, this is absolutely not to scale. Capillaries are way smaller than arteries and veins. We're talking about 1,000 times smaller. Arteries and veins are visible with the naked eye. We can see them. Some of them are quite thick. Your aorta, the biggest artery in your body, is about the thickness of your index finger. It's about that thick, your aorta. Your capillaries, however, are microscopic. We can't see them with the naked eye, okay? Now, the capillaries have got a few adaptations relating to their function. So the first thing we need to think about is their function. Think about the purpose of blood. The purpose of blood flow, we've talked about transporting oxygen around the body along with other things. What is happening at the capillary? What is the function of the capillary? What do they do? If the artery carries blood away from the heart and the vein carries the blood back to the heart, they're going to connect the arteries and the veins, but they're also going to allow for gas exchange, as Alfred Null says. They allow for exchange. Substances can diffuse in and out of the blood. So I'm just going to put here the word exchange. Lots of you are talking about gas exchange, but don't forget we're also talking glucose, we're also talking waste products like urea, we're talking amino acids. Lots and lots of different substances are diffusing in and out of the blood. So if they're all about exchange and all about diffusion, well, how are those capillaries adapted? How are they going to make sure that diffusion is happening as rapidly as possible? How are these capillaries adapted to maximize diffusion? It comes back to those factors that affect diffusion that you would have learnt about previously. What factors that affect diffusion? So you are correct there, natural scientists. We're going to talk about that more in just a second, because that's going slightly beyond the specification of, slightly beyond GCSE specification. Really nice. Yashi, they are one cell thick. Look, we've just got this endothelium. The endothelium is just one cell thick. One cell thick. And the reason for that, this is going to reduce that diffusion distance. So decreases that diffusion distance. Not many answers for that question. I feel like a few people perhaps weren't quite so sure about that. Now, natural scientist has raised a really good point there about slow blood speed. The capillaries, because they are one cell thick, they're also really delicate. When you get a bruise, when you kind of hit your skin really hard, you get a bruise, and the bruise is because your capillaries have ruptured and your blood is now pooling out into your kind of muscle tissue. That's what a bruise is. Now, if the blood was flowing into the capillaries under really high pressure, it would just damage them straight away. They'd just rupture all the time. Hello, Blanks, good to have you in as well. And what needs to happen is the pressure needs to decrease. So if we go from one artery into thousands of capillaries, what we do is we increase the total area. And if you increase the area, then the pressure decreases, and that decreases the pressure, but it also decreases the blood flow as well, the speed of the blood flow, which means the blood is moving slower, and that allows more time for diffusion. So that's a really good point that you raised there, natural scientist. It is a little bit scary when you think about it, Shasta. And if you think about something like a stroke, perhaps. So a stroke is when somebody has a bleed in the brain because their blood vessels have ruptured in their brain. Quite often the capillaries can be damaged really easily. So if somebody has a head injury, the capillaries might be ruptured, and that might then be causing bleeding into the brain and could potentially cause problems. So natural scientist says also in capillaries the blood speed is low because the lumen is large, therefore slow water speed that cause more interaction between water and the vessel walls, and pressure increases on the walls. Yeah, excellent there. natural scientists. So the speed decreases because that total kind of cross-sectional area increases. Great. Okay, let's have a look at some kind of practice questions relating to this. So of these 3 blood vessels that I have shown you, again, not to scale, which is each type? So which is each type? So let's start with F. What type of blood vessel is F? And give me a reason for your answer. What type of blood vessel is F? K. Mohammed says vein. Adam says vein as well. I agree. It is a vein. Can you give me a reason for your answer? Can you tell me why? Very good. Red, no name. Yashi too, because they are thinner walls. Or we could maybe say larger lumen as well. Thinner walls. What about G then? What type of blood vessel is G? What do we think? Alpha Null, haven't heard from you for a little while. Salah, what are you saying as well? What type of blood vessel is G going to be? Very good there. Nice Alpha Null, very nice K Mohammed as well. It is going to be an artery. Nice Adam too. So G is an artery, and I love what you guys are saying. Thicker walls, or we could maybe say smaller lumen too. And that leaves us with H, which is obviously a capillary. And what would be our reason for that? What would be our reason as to why that is a capillary? What do we think? Blanks, you've joined the stream. Let's get involved. Let's answer on the chat. What do we think? DVRA as well. What are you saying? Yashi says that it's got a 1-cell thick wall as well. Really, really good, Yashi. So that capillary there, we know that it's capillary because the walls are 1-cell thick. Nice Adam as well. 1-cell thick walls. Good. Okay then. So blood vessel H is adapted to increase the rate of diffusion. I mean, this kind of links into what we've just said. The walls are 1-cell thick. The walls are 1-cell thick. But how many marks is this question? How many marks is this question? Well, it is a 2-mark question, isn't it? So what do I need to say to get my second mark? What else would I need to say to get a second mark in this question? How am I going to get my second mark here? The walls are 1-cell thick. How does this relate to diffusion? You're right there, red no name. I need to link it to diffusion. I need to link it to that diffusion distance. So it decreases the distance, or the diffusion distance, or the diffusion pathway, we might even say, if we're trying to sound fancy. So it decreases. Oh, that's a terrible arrow. So it decreases the diffusion pathway. Excellent there, team. Great. Okay. So let's do some maths. Let's do some maths. Biology has got maths in it. 10% of your biology GCSE is going to be maths questions. So we need to make sure that we are ready to do them. So calculate the percentage difference in blood flow between person A and person B. Now, percentage difference, what's our equation for percentage difference or percentage change? What's our equation for percentage change? Percentage change equals, this is one you need to know. Red no name's jumping in with a calculation already. Not quite red no name. Our percentage change is going to be our change divided by the original multiplied by 100. So the change divided by the original multiplied by 100. So let's first think about the change. Well, the difference between these two, we're going to subtract them, aren't we? 250 minus 155. And then we're going to divide that by the original. Which is the original value here? Which is the original value? Is it person A or person B? What's going to be the number under the bottom? What's the original value? Yashi says 250. Anybody agree or disagree? Cat's Rule says A. It's absolutely correct. It is person A. Hello there, FCMH Edits as well. Good to have you in. So we're going to put 250 on the bottom. So we're going to have 95 over 250 multiplied by 100. And our final answer is, post your final answer into the chat then, team. I'm going to calculate it as well. Let me get my calculator open. 95 divided by 250. We get a lovely 38%. Fantastic, 38%. The big mistake that people really frequently make is around the number that goes on the bottom. Remember, your original value is the first one that is mentioned in the question, okay? So the first thing that's mentioned in the question is going to be your original value. So that's why we put 250 at the bottom. All right, moving on to our next one then. Calculate the volume of blood through the arteries of a person A in 1 hour, giving your answer in decimeters cubed. So the first thing we're going to do is we've got our rate of flow here, haven't we? So the rate is equal to 250 centimeters cubed per minute. What's our equation for the rate? How do we work out the rate of something? Rate is kind of how fast it's happening. It's the rate of change, how quickly it is changing. How do we calculate the rate of a reaction? It's our volume divided by time. Nice there, Yashi. So volume over time. So what else do I need to know here? Well, I need to know the time, and I've got that in my question too. My time equals 1 hour. What do I need to do here though? What do I need to do in this calculation? When I'm doing my calculation here, there's something important that I need to do before I go any further. Can you spot what that important next step is going to be? Very good. It's going to be convert. Fantastic there. Cat's rule as well. Convert. This is in minutes. This is in hours. I need them to be in the same unit. So I'm going to convert this into minutes. 1 hour is 60 minutes, as we all know. So 250 is equal to our volume divided by 60. So the volume is equal to, shout it out in the chat, what's our volume equal to? What's our volume going to be equal to? We get 15,000. And what's my unit here? What is my unit? Yashi says 15,000 centimeters cubed. Alpha Null says 15k, and Red No Name says 15k as well, or 15,000. What would the unit be here? Is this decimeters cubed or is this centimeters cubed? What do we think? What have we calculated so far? This is centimeters cubed. Good, Alpha Null and Red No Name. So I now need to convert this into decimeters cubed, don't I? I need to complete my answer. So to go from my 15,000 centimeters cubed into decimeters cubed, what do I need to do? I need to divide by 1,000. Centimeters cubed are equivalent to a milliliter. A decimeter is a liter. There's 1,000 milliliters in a liter. I'm going to divide by 1,000. And so we get 15 decimeters cubed as our final answer. Which bit would you like me to explain again there, Mohammed? The conversions or the whole calculation? Remember, this calculation, rate equals volume divided by time. This is one you need to learn. You need to know this equation, okay? It's quite a simple equation, isn't it? And then all we're doing is substituting into this equation, okay? So we're then substituting it in. We've got our numbers at the top here, K. Mohammed, from the table. We need to do this conversion, so we've got the same units. Then I put my numbers into my equation, solve my equation, so I times both sides by 60, and then I do my conversion again to get to decimeters cubed, okay? All right, let's go on to thinking about our blood, because the heart is pumping the blood, and the blood is really important. The blood is a transport medium. And we've got 4 different components to the blood, okay? Let's start with number 1 at the top here. What do we think number 1 is? What part of the blood is number 1? Which type of blood cell there, Red No Name? Great there, Yashi and K. Mohammed. Who else we got in the chat? Come on, Adam. Very nice, Alpha Null. It is the red blood cells. Natural scientists coming in with the erythrocytes, the red blood cells. Very good, natural scientists. Yes, these are also known as erythrocytes. Okay, let's go in for number 2 then. What do we think we've got underneath here? What do we think number 2 is? Good there, red no name. Yeah, these are our white blood cells. These are our white blood cells. And across to number 3. Very nice there, Shasta too. Natural scientists talking leukocytes. I think generally at GCSE, natural scientists we refer to them as lymphocytes or phagocytes, okay? The white blood cells. This is our plasma, very good. Our yellow fluid, our plasma. And then number 4 down below. Number 4 down below. What do we think number 4 is? These are kind of harder to represent. Here I've represented a kind of network, a sort of mesh, perhaps. I can see why you're saying capillary. These are the platelets. Good, K. Mohammed. These are the platelets. It's kind of hard to do a diagram of platelets because all they are is fragments of cells. But what this is supposed to represent is the blood clot that they then cause. So let's go back to these. Let's go to the function of each of them. What is the function of the red blood cells? What do the red blood cells do? Why are they important? Why are the red blood cells important? What is the role of them within the body, I guess? What's the role of them within the body? Not the nutrients there, Adam. It is the oxygen. Yeah, it's the oxygen. Not pumping the oxygen. It's carrying the oxygen. So the red blood cells carry the oxygen. The oxygen is bound to a special pigment that makes them red. There's a special pigment that makes them red that contains iron. That's why iron is really important in your diet. And then the oxygen binds to the iron in that pigment. What do we call that pigment? What do we call the red pigment that the oxygen is bound to? Fantastic. Yashi and natural scientists, yeah, that's our hemoglobin. So the oxygen is bound to the hemoglobin. And what adaptation do you spot about these red blood cells that means there's lots of space? What adaptation do you spot that means there's lots and lots of space for this hemoglobin? Not the thick walls there. What does the red blood cell not have? Yashi says biconcave, natural scientists say large surface area, but what does the red blood cell not have in order to make space for more hemoglobin? Yeah, exactly, Alpha Null, no nucleus, and I can see K. Mohammed mentioned that earlier as well. That red blood cell has no nucleus. All right, let's go to our white blood cell now. So we've got 2 main types of white blood cell, lymphocytes and phagocytes. What's the purpose? These white blood cells, they're all kind of doing the same thing though. What are the white blood cells doing? Like as an overall general theme, what is the function? What's the purpose of these white blood cells? Immunity, fighting infection. Logan says the defense system. Yeah, great. So to fight infection. Or we could perhaps say pathogens, to kill pathogens. Because remember, the pathogens are what are causing the infection. So to kill pathogens. And let's do a little bit of a, should we see what we know? If we're talking about the blood, yeah, we're going into year 10. Let's see what we already know though. How do the white blood cells do this? They produce 2 different things and then do a third thing as well. They produce 2 different things and then they do a third thing as well in order to fight off infections and kill these pathogens. Can we remember? Does anybody know what they are? I'll give you a clue. 2 of them begin with anti. Very nice there, Yashi. Yeah, antibodies and antitoxins. They produce antibodies that bind to the pathogens. They produce antitoxins that bind to any toxins produced by the pathogen, and they are also going to engulf. They're going to kind of swallow up those pathogens. They're going to consume the pathogens and destroy them. All right, plasma. Now, plasma is the transport or the Let's call it the yellow fluid, actually. It's the yellow fluid part, the component of the blood. Now, the plasma here, what is the, like, what might we find in the plasma? It's the yellow fluid. What could we find in the plasma, perhaps? What might be being transported in the plasma? Yeah, urea and carbon dioxide, exactly. So urea plus our CO2, but something else, not just waste products. Not just waste products, there's going to be something else as well. Another important molecule that is being transported around the body that is necessary in all different parts of the body. Does anybody know what that could be? Not just nutrients. Guys, top tip for you, you don't get any marks if you say nutrients in your exam, okay? Begins with a G. Everybody shout it at once. Begins with a G. What do we think it is? It is glucose. I like what you said as well there, Logan, about proteins. Yeah, you could also say proteins too. Or maybe amino acids. And then finally, our platelets. I mentioned this earlier. What's the role of those platelets? What are those platelets going to do? What do we think those platelets are going to do? Oh, they've formed this network. They formed this mesh. What do we think that mesh, that network is representing in our little diagram here? It is that blood clot, exactly. They cause blood clotting. They form blood clots. And those blood clots are important to kind of prevent bleeding, prevent excess bleeding. Okay, let's take a look at one really quick 6-mark question to finish then, and then I've got some other treats for you too. So, some types of cancer cause the number of blood components in a person's body to fall to a dangerously low level. These are things like leukemia, perhaps. A person with one of these types of cancer may experience symptoms such as tiredness, frequent infections, and bleeding that will not stop. Explain how a very low number of blood components, and we're thinking red blood cell, white blood cell, plasma, and platelets there, in the body can cause these symptoms. So thinking about our first one then, tiredness, which component of the blood might relate to tiredness? Which component of the blood, if you had very few of which part of the blood, why might that make you tired? It's those red blood cells, exactly. So fewer red blood cells, this means we get less of what being transported. So less something transported. What am I talking about here? Less of what being transported? Like what natural scientists is getting ahead as well. Less of the oxygen, fantastic. So less oxygen transported, and this means we get less. What's that oxygen necessary for? Less something to release that energy. It is that aerobic respiration. Fantastic there, Yashi. Well done for saying aerobic as well. I can see you were listening on our main course last year, Yashi. You've taken on board all of my advice. All right, number 2. Infections. Which part of the oh, I almost gave it away there, didn't I? Which part of the blood are we talking about here? Fewer what? We were talking red blood cells earlier. Now we're talking about something different. We're talking about our white blood cells. Fantastic, Logan. So fewer white blood cells. This means that they are less able to fight off those pathogens. Less able to destroy pathogens. And then number 3, what are we talking about for number 3? Which part of the blood or which component of the blood is going to relate to bleeding that will not stop? Nice, K. Mohammed. It is our platelets. So fewer platelets, and this means the blood will not clot. Amazing, team. And there we go. 6 out of 6 in our GCSE question. Okay. Have you enjoyed your lesson? Have